Welcome to William Steel and Still the Spotlight with my guest host, Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent. Ignacio,
Bill, what's going on, brother?
all right, how are you? We
Good.
just had
Happy
a little small
holidays.
talk.
Merry Christmas. Hard to believe that Christmas around the corner and another year has gone.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I'll tell you what, for my audience, I was locked up 18 years for nonviolent crimes, and I never missed my birthdays, really. I try not to think about getting old in prison,
Yeah.
older, but I did miss Christmas. And so for me to be able to be out at night, because in
That's
prison you're not
nice.
allowed outside at nighttime, to be able to drive around and see these beautiful homes in downtown with incredible Christmas light displays,
I
it's
love it.
overwhelming.
It's,
So
it's low, and we got the cold weather, which is nice. Feeling very Christmassy, right? Spending time with the family, having great meals together, healthy. Hopefully, everybody have a good, healthy, happy New Year, and 2024 better than 2020. So far, 2023 is finishing very strong with the markets. I think 2024 is going to be the same, a strong year, and I think we'll have new president at by the end of 2024. I like my book said, Bill, and I predicted a year and a half ago. Joe Biden, one and done. He will not be our president in
he's
2025.
doing nothing but stumbling around the presidency, and for whatever the reasons, whether it's corruption, mental illness, or decline, I am in such disbelief of the state of this country with him in charge.
You have
Yesterday
no
on the
confidence.
news,
Yeah,
over 6,000 people per day coming through the border. I
yeah,
think it's
or
like
more.
doubling, like every month or something. And
It's
they
more.
know the president's days are numbered, and it's going to be Republican back in office to put an end to that.
Well, it's so bad, Bill. We talked a little bit before the show about Governor Abbott and passing legislation, historical legislation from the state of Texas is so frustrated with this administration not enforcing, not having the agents, not finishing the wall, that they themselves now want to make arrests for those who come in here illegally. Because right now they can't do it. That only the Supreme Court has says that only federal agents can do those arrests. Only the federal government can, and they now pass laws to do it. It's going to go to the Supreme Court, obviously, be tested. But now with a conservative Supreme Court, maybe they can. If nothing else, maybe they can finish the wall instead of waiting for the federal government to do it.
I agree. It seems like that's a law that'll never work, except for there's probably an exception that when you
Hmm.
can demonstrably prove that the federal government is not doing their job to the detriment of the country and national security,
That's a problem.
probably an exception could be made and a carve out to allow the states to start enforcing that or
More,
come
more,
up.
more enforcement, or if nothing else, working on a task force with these guys, with Border Patrol and other agencies to turn them over to them at least. We'll be, detaining them and turn them over to you, and then you can deport these guys. And if nothing else, you have to finish the wall. You've got to be secure around these. Because I'm watching the videos like everybody else is. If you haven't seen these videos, go online, go check it out. There's a guy who's frustrated. He owns a huge property on the border in Texas, and these people are just pretty much waving at him. He's been reached to authority. He says he can't do anything about it. And these people he's documented his video are from all over the world. It's not just from Latin America. They're from the Middle East. They're from Africa. They're from Asia, and they're all coming through. They're all coming through. And like anything else, we're a country of immigrants, absolutely. But it has to be done. We have to know who's coming in, because if not, we have illnesses. We may have terrorists. We don't know how many Hamas sympathizers are coming in here right now, right?
Yeah.
Or Al Qaeda or ISIS or what other group that wants to do harm to us, because they know it's open. They can come in and they can be a sleeper cell. It's all we have to think. We have to, as a strong country, we have to have. I have fence around my house. I protect my property. We got to protect our border. That's for sure.
Right. William Oldfield, right?
Yes.
One of Bill Crook's friends. So
Yes.
he and I talk a lot, on the internet, and he was saying
He
because
wrote Inspector Oldfield. Actually, I wrote a little bit about it and try to make a TV series with my friend David Steenhook. We're trying to produce Broken Crowns also. So look out
right,
for that on
yeah,
on
he
QE.
mentioned that he knows him the other day, and I
Yeah.
recognized the name because you told me that name.
Yeah.
But so I said, "What the hell's going on?" I went to prison. I come out, and the same things you and I discussed because he's a pretty smart guy. And he said it's deliberate. He said the Democrats and liberals are doing this deliberately. They could care less. They're never going to stop it. He said because they're looking at it as nothing but future voters
That's
and
real
people
true.
that are
That's true.
dependent on them. And if they could keep groups of people hating each other and at each other's throats, that's what they run on all the time. They
Yeah.
fabricate issues that for the most part don't exist much more in our society. I mean, they
Yeah.
do to some degree in certain pockets, but the issues that they run on all the time really don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a Democratic governor in New York talking about reparations. I mean, if that's not a bold ploy to try to get, black voters, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because none of us had anything to do with that. And we're not going to pay for something that happened 100, 200 years ago, not our fault. So
Well, I
that's,
was telling my family the other day, I said, if they start talking about reparations for black, and these days you can identify as whatever you want, I'm going to start identifying as a black male. Put in for my reparations, collect it.
yeah.
And I'm not trying to minimize what they went through, okay? Because many groups are enslaved, including white,
Yeah,
including
yeah, but the
women,
generation
including
here,
children.
but the generation here, Bill, had nothing to do with that.
Had nothing to do with it. And
We're
somebody
not paying
made
for
this,
that.
somebody made the sarcastic comment, which
Oh,
kind of tongue in cheek, and I kind of agree.
yeah.
What reparations? And it was
Go
like
home.
this: they have been getting generational welfare for decades. Why would you give them anything more? I mean, that's a condescending way to look at it, but it kind of makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, but I'm looking at it.
Black
They have their
Americans have
freedoms,
become
Bill.
presidents. They've become
Yeah,
the president. They become the best athletes. They become highly
yeah,
educated.
of course.
It's generations and generations ago, 2, 3 generations ago that this happened.
Yeah. So it doesn't apply to today, and we have nothing to do with that. You're
Right.
only responsible for the sins that you've committed, right? Not from the sins of previous generations. And
Right.
we're not going to pay for someone else's sins and errors because it's like a woke movement. Punish one group to help another one, and that's the problem with the whole woke mentality for
Yep.
sure. And
Yep.
and you can't tolerate, you can't have it. You can move with it.
Steal from and hate others in order to try to enrich yourself for no reason whatsoever.
To make up for the sins of the past, you got to punish future generations of a different ethnic group just to show. No, that's not going to work like that. In fact, that's going to really be people aren't going to tolerate that. I can tell you one thing.
And
You're not going to
most
have
people
that happen.
who are black, whether they agree with it or not, publicly they'll say they agree with it because who wants to turn down free money, right? So I get that part of it. But at the same time, inherently, you have to know it's nothing but a grab for your votes from the very group, the
Yeah,
Republican Democrats, who came up with this 85% sentencing law, Truth in Sentencing Act. Joe Biden, that was his baby. He called blacks super predators on
remember
the
that?
floor,
Yes,
whatever. He called them super predators, and that
he's been an
crack
awful.
addict should go to prison for 5 and 10 years when his son himself is a crack addict. He doesn't wish that for his son.
He's a
Never
cracker.
mean
Talk
no.
about his son Hunter, and I know we touched just a little bit on one of the shows with we did with Frank Lordy. Now he's been indicted, 9-count indictment for tax evasion, tax fraud, and
Right.
I think he owes the government $1.4 million. And this was happening when he just finished. His father was just finished being vice president, now running for president. I mean, and if you haven't seen those videos, folks, we talked about it. Go check out the videos of him smoking a lot of crack. That was truly the laptop from hell, as Trump said during the debate that came out. You see him with the weapons. He's lying. He's lying to the form to get firearms. He's a cracker. He should not have these kind of weapons. He has it. He was a danger. He could not endanger himself, danger his family, but probably danger his father. And that he's a problem. Now he comes in like a circus and saying that he's the victim. No, you have an addiction. You did all these things. Blame yourself at the end for what's happened. No one else. Man
I
up to
think,
it.
I think his
Man
best
up to
course
it.
of action from somebody who's been there, done a lot of that stuff, his best course of action is to use some of that family money, get himself into a good treatment program for a long time, write a book, tell all, confessing to his sins and saying, hey, I screwed up. I became an addict like so many people in this country.
Where do you think that cocaine came from that was found in the White House?
I honestly think it was his, because they said it was an area of the White House that
Yeah.
visitors could possibly get in there and drop it off for him to come out and retrieve it.
We should have Information Act file on that to find out the video because everybody knows who that belonged to. With all the video cameras in the White House, everybody knows where they, and they're not saying where it came out. The Secret Service should release: is the president, does he have a coke problem? If he does, we need to know that. If it's
Right.
his son or another family member, that needs to be known. We need to know that because that could have been another powder. It could have been anthrax. Could have been something else in there. People know that's a security issue. Who did that belong to? We talked about before. That should come out, and who that be. All that stuff has to play together. All of it. All of it. All of it.
It's such a disgusting White House these days. They showed a comparison with the current, White House and the last one with when the Trumps were there. Everything was, beautifully decorated and very respectful and conservative and Americana. Some
Mhm.
designers, of course, because Melania is big into design.
Sure.
The Christmas decorations gorgeous. Now everything just looks like cheesy and like a dump and like the hood. They're inviting they're inviting like transsexuals to dance half naked on the during
Yeah, I saw
Easter
that.
on the
I
White
saw
House
that those
lawn.
videos.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell is wrong with these people?
And I think some of these people are very supporters of BLM, Black Lives Matter, and I know these groups, which I consider a domestic terrorist group, very,
Of
very
course.
anti-United States, anti everything we got going on. A big problem. A big problem.
The
So
leaders have been in trouble for stealing millions of dollars from the organization. All these people that
yes,
have been
yes,
supposedly victimized by police that they supposedly matter to the Black Lives Matter movement have received no aid from them whatsoever. Where's the money disappearing to? They support Hamas. Then you have gay groups that support Hamas. I put on the internet, I call them ham/ass. Every time I comment somewhere, like especially on Instagram, I got
Hamas,
yeah,
Hamas.
ham ass. I said that's what happens when you support ham ass, right?
That's
So
great.
so I keep doing that on these sites that are supporting them. And as a public, figure now, I really shouldn't be really taking hardcore sides, but I do. I'm very public. I support Israel. I love the Jewish people.
We all do.
Right.
Everybody takes sides. If you don't take sides, and you're kind of a sellout. I mean, you got to look at the situation and study the situation and see what's going on. We're talking about Hamas here and Israel, and we see the horrors. Look at the labyrinth and infrastructure of their tunnels.
Mhm.
It is unbelievable. Last 2 or 3 years, how they built not even just small tunnels that people can fit through. I mean, you have tunnels size where we can fit cars in there. What a problem! It's really trying to get creative, and now maybe they try to flood the tunnels with salt water because they're right there in the ocean, which could be an interesting way to get in there to attack these guys without having their guys killed. But unfortunately, I think that a lot. Unfortunately, Bill, I see a lot of the hostages getting killed.
Yeah, I do
You
too.
had that incident. I'll talk real quick about it. You had that incident there where they had 3 Israeli males, right? They were waving the white flag allegedly, and they were mistaken to be Hamas, and they were shot and killed, right? Horrible situation there, horrible. But you're going to see a lot more of that because Hamas is going to let them out. And if you're an Israeli soldier, you're in an impossible situation there because you're fearing for your life in there. You're dealing with people who are strapped sometimes with explosives, right? And you're not sure. You're seeing someone there, a male, in that situation. You're going to figure it's a threat, all right? And so they're in an impossible situation to do that
Let
there.
me ask you a
And you're going to see
question.
more hostages killed.
As far as resolving, I mean, they can't train for every scenario. I'm sure they try,
No,
but in that scenario where you have 3 people, I think they had their shirts off. I didn't see the footage. White flag. They were conversing with them in Hebrew, trying to scream and say who they were. They gunned down all 3 of them at a distance. Okay, unarmed. That to me, I love Israel and I love my Jewish people, but to me, that almost could constitute a war crime. I don't know.
well,
But my
there's
thing
going to be
is
an
this.
investigation. There's going to be an
My thing is
investigation.
this: why couldn't they get on a bullhorn and say, "Lay face down, put your hands in front of you," and they could have took one of those robots over to them to have a conversation with them. What's your pet dog's name? What's your grandmother's name? What street did you grow up on?
Well,
Okay, walk
I
over.
think Netanyahu is saying that Bibi Netanyahu is saying that they have to do better on that because now they're going to come across hostages. They have to be. It's a tough place to be in. It's a tough position to be, but that's what they're trained for. You have to determine between good and bad, because if not, you're going to have more of this situation, and that's hard for the families. It's heartbreaking that their own government killed their loved ones.
Oh my
That's
God.
heartbreaking, and they have to live with that
Now
for the
you know
rest of
what
their
I'm
lives.
talking about. You've been in federal law
Yeah,
enforcement a long
sure.
time.
You have to
You know the
get a better
robots that
job.
have the cameras and the communication devices and the guns on them and all that nonsense. Okay, so they have the ones that roll around like little tanks, right? They go up to people, right?
They can.
Okay, so these days they even have drones. They have little drones with cameras and speakers and communication. Why
They
couldn't
could
they
run little
have
drones.
told them lay down, land a drone in front of them to have a conversation with them, vet who they were, and then get them to come into the vehicle? I
Yeah.
mean, there was a different way to handle this, I think.
Oh, absolutely. The right there at the end, because what's going to happen? You're going to get more hostages killed that way. So now Hamas knows that that's going to happen. So sometimes they may let them out there, and that plays better for them to see Israelis IDF killing their own, and that at the end may have more pressure at the end to have a ceasefire. But in my opinion, Israel has to move quicker. They have to put a quicker stop to them because the pressure, world pressure around the world, is getting enormous for them to have a ceasefire again and stop the war. Because obviously, I think the count now with Palestinian civilians over, I think, 14,000. And you see women and children being killed like that. No one says don't kill Hamas, but you got to be a way where you have to win also. People know what you were attacked by Hamas, but go after Hamas, tag Hamas, get these other civilians out of there who are being victimized, because in essence, Hamas victimized them because all that money came from them, right? For different world organizations that they stole for this underground tunnel, for their weapons, right? Everything they're doing. So in essence, they're being victimized twice,
A lot
victimized
of
by
the
Hamas and these people.
yes, a lot of the citizens over there in Palestine or Gaza Strip, because there's no
Yeah.
country of Palestine, they are screaming at this point, like, Hamas, get out of here, kill them all, surrender. You've destroyed our lives. You stole all the money.
Everything's
If you
destroyed.
see the caravans of aid going in, they are immediately commandeered by Hamas, and you have gunmen sitting on the tops of the trucks, stealing it and taking it for Hamas leadership.
Yes.
The
Yes.
people are not getting the aid going in, and
No,
yet
it's
you have
horrible.
these sites. You have a site out there run by a guy named Sean King. He's an American, fancies himself an advocate for all the Hamas people, right? And he puts out the most bogus propaganda. I'm surprised. I don't encourage anybody to kill this guy, but I'm surprised Mossad hasn't shut this guy down already, because he is what a liar. The stuff he puts out. He'll
It's
put
not
up
propaganda out there, for
stuff
sure.
where, like, they're starving them out with blockades, and I'm like, why are you lying to make money off the internet? You're a liar. Here's the caravans going in, and they're getting stolen by the people you support to starve the women and children and kids.
Yeah, I think you're probably seeing also some of these people maybe cooperating also with the Israeli military or intelligence, because they must be getting tired of this stuff also. I mean, it's been like this for months already. Their kids are getting destroyed, families being destroyed, right? They want to put an end to this. Everybody's getting tired of what they're seeing here. I think that a long-term solution, it'll be difficult, but I think it's obvious they need a two-state solution. Two-state solution, separate but equal. They have their own area. You have yours, but they have to not be under Israeli control. I did see some videos which I found disturbing, which a news crew in there in the West Bank, where you really can't function if you're Palestinian. And then you have the Israeli settlers doing a lot of aggressive things I don't like either. They shouldn't be with the military, and a lot of them are acting with the military, which I know, but Netanyahu says that's not allowed and that's not supposed to happen. But I'm seeing things with videos I don't like. They have to be separated. Israelis should not be controlling Palestinians. Separated, their own state, they control it, and the Israeli have their own state. They both are separate but equal, and they move on, because it's just, this doesn't work anymore, and nobody wants to keep on seeing this. It's
The
horrible.
problem with that, as I see it, in my study of Islam and hadiths and all that stuff for many years, is that a good part of that faith is, if you're an infidel and you don't convert, you're subject to death by beheading. That's in all their books. So the
Yeah.
people that are doing this are just following what their own books say to do. That's number
Yeah.
one. And this is my opinion, not YouTube, not yours necessarily.
Right.
So you have such a fanatical religious belief that everybody else needs to die if you don't convert. And then when you convert, the women can't get educations, everybody else gets abused. It's in my opinion, a very abusive, evil situation. And they're trying to subjugate the entire world to this
It's horrible. These people are
crazy.
brainwashed.
It's a cultish doctrine, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I know people are Muslim who know these people are extremists. That's why they're extremists. But there's a lot of Palestinians who are Christians too. Don't forget that. So even within the Palestinians, you have Christians and Muslims. So there's issues there where even among themselves they have that going on. So there's going to be problems there also. And even among Israel, you have European Jews, you have Arab Jews, right? And sometimes you see conflict among them because of cultural. It's like America. Diversity of people, diversity of ideas. Sometimes you get diversity of problems, and that applies everywhere. Bill.
Did you see the testimony of different IDF intelligence people, and I think a coroner, some of the first responders that went on the 7th to try to see the carnage that was left behind, and they found all the bodies and all that left behind, the condition of the bodies. There's been a lot of testimony, and I see it on different sites, little snippets of it. And it's things that I can't even discuss here because YouTube will shut my channel down.
Yeah.
The most horrific crimes imaginable you can ever. Civilized people can't really imagine these crimes. But you were in law enforcement. You know what people are capable of. I was in prison. I know what people are capable of. And the most horrendous things done to children, women, young girls, repeatedly, to the point where their bones broke, or they bled to death, or they were set on fire after the fact and burned to death. Yeah. Okay. So this is not me or my opinion. This is actual footage that exists. It's getting leaked out in various places, but that they won't show it to the world. What they need to do is these groups that are protesting, supporting Hamas and the people that are over there doing these horrible things. They need to let them see the actual videos. And if you still support to
Oh,
that
horrible.
virulent extreme, somebody who would do that to another human being or to a baby, you really need to be in an insane asylum. You need to be committed somewhere. I don't know what the laws are on that, but there's got to be some way to get those people off the street also.
Yeah. Did you see that? You haven't seen the video? Go check the video out of Sydney, Australia, about a month ago, where you got these Hamas supporters uh, chanting "Gas to Jews, gas to Jews,
I didn't see
ga-
that.
gas to Jews." Yeah, they were chanting "Gas to Jews." A lot of people, they're so angry and hateful that now it's like one group wants to commit genocide against another group. It's like they all want to kill each other, and that's when human existence falls to the lowest common denominator. That's not what we should be, and that's what should not be happening. And it's a horrible situation. People lose their morals. They think everybody says they're religious, but all of a sudden they forget all that and they say, let's just go about primal and let's just kill each other.
What kind of demented person pulls down these posters for missing children
I
that were
know it's
kidnapped,
all horrible, horrible things.
viciously assaulted and turned destroyed in every way? The innocence taken, their humanity
Everything,
taken from them, kidnapped.
humanity.
What kind of
Everybody wants to
slavery?
strip humanity from each other.
What kind of human being? And there's doctors and lawyers and dentists and secretaries in New York and some of the big cities pulling these posters down to find these people and keep awareness out there. What kind of monster are you that you're a professional with all these advanced degrees and you
Yeah,
would take
they don't
that
care.
poster down? If that happened to Muslims, I'm a Christian. I wouldn't think of tearing that poster down. I'd say, okay, let's help these people. Let's find their kids.
They've lost their
Why do you not
bearings.
want to help children that are kidnapped?
Even at all levels. Bill. So imagine people who are brainwashed at all levels. That this is where they're going, and that's where they can arm these people to go in there, paraglide in, and do the atrocity because they're full of. They've been at such a young age, full of such hate for each other, for the Jews, that's what they're capable of, and that's what they become. It's a horrible situation. So let's hope for the new year, Bill, that we'll see a healthy resolution, peaceful resolution for what's going on, that conflict between Hamas and Israel, the elimination of Hamas, and that Palestinians and Israelis can live in peace. The future has to go forward, right? And then maybe also in Ukraine, they can have peace out there and the war can be resolved. Obviously, we can't continue forever. I don't think we're going to spend another $60 billion. They have to come up with a resolution on the eastern side of Ukraine. I mean, obviously, the Russians, it's a quagmire. And it appears right now the Russians have doubled down, tripled down. They don't have the army size. Even though they've won a lot of big gains, I don't think they can take that Crimea area, Donbass area, all that different areas out there. I don't think they can take it back. But there's always been a lot of Russians there anyways. So they need to come up with some sort of agreement. Maybe the UN get involved there, peacekeeping troops there, something. Maybe the Russians withdraw, but the UN's there. And they have to do something and move forward. I think Zelensky is realizing that they don't get, like they said, all the freebies forever. This is not going to be another Afghanistan. We're going to be there for 20 years. I mean, it's not going to work that way. So there has to have some resolution coming in there.
I forget the blonde lady who worked with Trump administration. She's an attorney. She was on Fox yesterday with the former head of the CIA. What's her name? She's very articulate. She's a big Trump supporter. She was part of the administration.
But her husband was anti-Trump, right?
Right. He was a Democrat. I think they divorced now.
They're divorced.
Their teenager was on TikTok complaining about how her parents fight in the house about politics all the time.
Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. It's that's great, but I don't know what. Yeah, I've seen her a few times on CNN.
They make some good points. Now, this guy, I forget the guy. He was head of the CIA with Trump when Trump was around, and he was analyzing everything, and they agreed. They said, "Look what happened since Biden came in. I think it was the first year the border problem started. The second year, Russia has the nerve to invade Ukraine. Never would have happened under Trump. The third year, you have Hamas attacking Israel and slaughtering, enormous amounts of people in the most horrendous attack possible. Not even going after military or infrastructure. They're going after kids and women. None of this would be happening under Trump. And now you have these crazy courts. We can transition into Trump. Do we want Trump? I'd love to see him become president again. He's killing everybody. He doesn't do anything other than
I'm not a Trump guy, but I would love to see either Nikki Haley or the Santos. I know you don't like the Santos. We agree to disagree on that. But definitely we agree one thing. Joe Biden will not be president by the end, starting 2025. He's one and done.
I think you like DeSantis because you're former law enforcement. He's a former prosecutor.
Yeah, I like him because he kept well, like I said, he kept the state open, right? Unlike the other places where they shut it down, he was smart. He did not lose his mind over it, and they realized that if you're sick, you have pre-existing condition, yeah, get the medication, get the vaccine, stay home, of course. But people who are healthy, normal, no, you don't have to shut down and know the situation. So I think he kept good common sense about it. The economy prospered because without having an economy, you have nothing. And look, how many suicides did we have in this country based on people losing their finances, right? Their income, their businesses. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm sure
suicide.
DeSantis would be better than any Democrat, that's for sure. But at the same time, you have the Supreme Court of Colorado
Oh,
yesterday, the day before, removed Trump from eligibility to run for president in that state, citing Fourth Amendment, and he incited insurrection. Well, guess what?
insurrection.
The
Yeah.
man's never been convicted of anything like that. He told him to go to there and have a peaceful protest. Tell him you want me president. Go there peacefully. They
Remember,
suppressed all
yeah,
that stuff. They suppressed all that. You know, and so they started convicting people for trespassing or whatever they did. And unfortunately, there are people that got out of hand over there. But it
they
wasn't the
did.
whole.
They
It
did.
wasn't really necessarily planned or plotted by Donald Trump. I don't agree with any of that.
He like I said, it was it did get out of control. Unfortunately, Cap police officers did die. They did commit suicide. People got brainwashed, and I think they got caught up in a movement in a moment that it should never have led to what happened. And I blame some of the Capitol Police guys, Bill, who kept the doors open. Why were they doing? They didn't do their job right. They left these people in. They shouldn't have been doing that either.
I
They should
think
have
they
done their
had one
job.
here. I think one hero Capitol Police officer really came out of the whole thing because when he knew they were getting overrun, like he was backing up into like a dead end corridor staircase and led them down the wrong way. The
On
other
purpose.
way is where everybody was, all the
Yeah.
politicians, and
Yeah,
he
that's
led the initial crowd away to give the rest of
away.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
he tricked them to follow him the wrong direction.
No, that's good. No, there's some good ones in there. Unfortunately, some bad ones did the wrong things, and you've seen a lot of suicides, unfortunately. A, because what happened, the abuse they took, and B, some of them were bad, and they did some bad things in there. But you know what? In the crowd too, you had people there who were former law enforcement, firefighters, other people with positions of professionals, and they did the wrong thing. You can peacefully protest. There's no need to vandalize, destroy property, try to go in there. I mean, we don't do that in this country. That's not the kind of people we are, and those kind of people are being held accountable, and I like
Well, a
that.
few weeks ago, when the Hamas supporters went in and did the same thing, not one of them was arrested. I don't think.
People need to be held. They can't be double standard.
Right.
Everybody, BLM, everybody, you torch and burn down. ATF was a big part of those prosecuting, investigating those riots when they're using Molotov cocktails, when they're using weapons and all everything else. They're being arrested, so they have to be held accountable. No doubt about it. But I think the Supreme Court at the end, Bill, will overturn it, and Trump will be. Let's say for some reason they have some issues with it. As a write-in candidate, he still wins in Colorado for the Republican primary. You can still write his name in. So it's not that big a deal because I think everybody will write his name in anyways. There's that
If
who do you want to write in?
if anything, more people will turn out to do that.
Everything they do hurts because they can write his name in. He doesn't have to be on the ballot itself. They can write
But
his name in.
I wonder. I didn't read the ruling. I wonder if it goes far enough to say, and if somebody adds his name, it still should not be counted.
No, I don't think they can do that. They can keep his name off the ballot, but doesn't mean people can't write it in. I mean, it's still a free country. People can do things and vote, and then you have to deal with the consequence. Then you have to deal with the consequence who's elected. That's two different things. People can vote for you in, and then if they want to remove you, impeach you, and then you have to go that process. But they can't be doing that. Not in this country. That's not how it works.
Whoever filed that or won that, I don't even know who filed to get that ruling. But anyway,
Anti-Trump. Somebody's
probably
not a
ask
Republican.
they could probably ask the Supreme Court to amend the ruling that, and if anybody writes it in, the vote shall not be counted.
No, I can't do. I think the conservative Supreme Court that's in there now is going to just squash this, and it'll be nothing there.
You know what? You know what's funny that you say that. I agree, and I know the Supreme Court's going to take this on an expedited basis.
They have to.
It's massive public interest. You have the Supreme Court clock that runs at snail's pace, takes a decade to get in there, and then you have the election clock coming up, and the forerunner by far is being victimized by a left-leaning Supreme Court. So I think they're going to hear it, and we all assume it's going to go the right way. But who
I
the
think so.
hell knows? Because if it goes the other way, all these other states are going to ban him from the ballot too, and then what?
Well, they're going to try, but it's too late already because Iowa starts already. That starts in a few weeks. New Hampshire. This is for Colorado is going to be doing Super Tuesday in March, so that's going to be dealt with. It's not going to impact too many other states. It took too long for Colorado to get there, and the election's already upon us. That most states are not going to dive into that. But I think the Supreme Court's already saying they're going to have to look at this by January, and they're going to make a decision real quick. And I think the decision is going to be put his name on the ballot.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, but when he gets in office, Trump, I really don't like this type of politics where you try to look for crimes for your enemies and all that constantly, and that becomes your whole focus. But in this particular case, because the amount of times they went after him and most of everything he's been accused of, he's been innocent of, the impeachments and all the other stuff, I really think he'd be well within his moral right at this point to unleash the hell of all these, Republican supported prosecutors to destroy every Democrat he possibly can. Retribution, scorched earth, because they did it with him. They destroyed his life. They took millions of dollars from him, tens of millions, God knows how much. I mean, it's just horrible the things that they're putting him
Yeah,
through.
and the thing that Trump has a problem with, and they put all the facts out there, and you look at what happened to George Santos. Also, he wasn't convicted. He was a Republican. Republicans agreed, but he was a disaster. And what the investigation brought out with the House committee was obviously campaign fraud. He was indicted about it. He has a lot of issues, and he was removed pretty quickly. And he's disgraceful. His last words is "to hell with this place." But my point is that if Trump is convicted, let's say with just a document case alone for mishandling classified documents, he's going to get impeached, and most likely he gets removed because they have Santos. They already have the president out there already with other officials. They'll do it to him. So the question with Trump is who's going to be his vice president? Because I don't think if he's convicted, I don't think he stays. I think he's going to get removed.
Hey, can you see me right now?
Yeah.
All right. I accidentally moved something in front of my screen that we were working on earlier, and I don't know how to get it back off the screen.
No, you're fine. There's nothing there.
Does that mean my screen recorded, whatever the recording's still working?
Yeah, everything's working. I can see the numbers.
Okay. I don't know how to get this thing off the screen. That's where my assistant comes in, who's not here at the moment.
No, you're fine.
I slid it up to the side, this document we were working on. Now I have the home screen for the computer up with all like the pictures of our apps and files and all that. So how do I click and get back on where I can see you on camera? Because I can't see you.
Oh, okay. I can see you perfectly. Everything's fine. I'm just here talking. So if you want to continue off,
what would I do? Look for the little duck symbol and click on that? I don't know where it is.
Well, we'll keep on talking, Bill. Pretend it's like a radio show. You just listen to my voice.
Okay.
All right. So
I wouldn't even know how to shut this down when the show's over, though. I'm going to take a picture of the screen and send it to her. But yeah, let's keep talking.
Yeah, we'll keep talking, and then I'll when we're done, I'll X out, and that way you'll be able to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how this is going to be an unprecedented election in 2024. We've seen, because don't forget, not only do we have these two, but we have RFK Jr. and this is going to transition nicely with RFK Jr. coming out now, which kind of surprised me. Not once, but twice he was on Epstein's plane, the Lolita Express, right? And I know you know a little bit about this. I'm kind of curious to find out. And now the names are going to be coming out with associates, and now senators are clamming. I think Senator from Tennessee, Mashburn, I think her last name, she is pushing to get the flight log information on Epstein's plane to find out, because he had a private island in the Virgin Islands, right? We like to find out what's going on, who else is associated, what other names do we have out there coming out? So that's interesting stuff there, Bill. What's your take? I know, how did you know Epstein? I know you wrote a book about it, Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell. How did you know her?
Well, in Palm Beach, I was doing a lot of burglaries years ago, and I ran into Jeffrey Epstein at a jeweler who was a friend of mine, and I was actually wanted by the police. I had warrants for my arrest in Florida and New York, and when I was at this jeweler's, like a diamond salon, the second floor on Worth Avenue, there was a guy who I now know to be Jeffrey Epstein standing across from me who really didn't even realize I was in the salon. And he was talking to my friend who owned the place. And I noticed there was a young girl with him, looked like a Jodie Foster taxi driver era young girl of about 14. And this guy had his hands down the back of her shorts. And my blood was boiling, and I had a gun on me at the time, and I had a bunch of stolen jewelry at the time, but I was also wanted. So I coughed and let him know I was there, and he stopped. A few minutes later, they left, and I told my friend, I said, "Hey, I'll be back in a little bit. I brought you some jewelry to look at, but I'm going to go grab lunch first." So I followed them down to a restaurant, and I confronted him, and we had some words, and I talked to him, and I talked to the girl, and they lied. I guess they realized I followed him out of the place. He said that was his niece, and he was just playing around, and she's 18 years old. So that's how I met him. I got her separately. I told him to sit where he was, and I got her separately. And she said the same thing. And I said, I know you're both lying to me. And if I was your father, you'd be going home and he'd be going to jail. I didn't know what to do. I was wanted at the time. And so we ended up, he kind of baited my greed. He said, well, what were you doing? And I'll tell you the guy's name because I think he's deceased now anyway, Irv. He said, what are you doing over at Irv's place? And I said, well, I sell jewelry, wholesale jewelry. He didn't know.
Who asked you that? Epstein did?
Yes.
Wow.
So he had asked me why I was there to begin with. I said, I'm a wholesaler of jewelry. It was stolen jewelry, and he was actually one of my biggest fences right on Worth Avenue. Anyway, I had other ones in Miami in the Seabold building. As you know, that's the Jewelers Exchange. Mm-hmm. So I had fences in different places, and this was one of them. And he said, well, I buy a lot of jewelry. Let me give you my number. And he gave me his number. He wrote it on, I think it was a napkin. And that was it. So I stayed in touch with him. He bought a few things over the next year or two. And then there was times when he'd ask for cocaine or something. And
was that, you said Epstein bought you jewelry?
Yeah, he would buy some stolen stuff, mostly women's jewelry, And I think what he was trying to do is because I threatened him then. I had pulled a gun on him under the table. And I said, look, you're touching a young girl in my friend's place, and he's got cameras over there. I said, what's stopping me from going back over there and having the police show up there and take the videos and see what the real deal is? And the last thing that I was going to do was call the police. Yeah. Because I was wanted. I was,
Yeah, because then you go to jail. What were you wanted for?
At that time, I don't even remember. Probably burglary or parole violation or something. But I was a fugitive on more than one occasion. So this is just one of many. But anyway, so, he kind of talked his way out of it. We exchanged information. Looked him up, did some business with him. He had me over the Palm Beach house a few times, and that's
wow. So after pointing the gun and all that, and making and those, I don't say threats. You can say threats. He invited you over to his house,
right? But not real soon. I mean, we meet at public locations and all that once in a blue moon. Don't forget, this guy is a mega billionaire traveling the world, and I'm just a low
making
level,
some money inside. Yeah, for sure.
Burglars.
They said that he had that house. Well, I was reading now, his house in Palm Beach, in the Virgin Islands, and in New York, highly wired.
Yep. Yeah, he did. And I would go there, and there's a place where you go and they would take your name and everything. And I told him, look, considering the type of business we're doing, you're never putting my name on the logbook, and you're telling your staff and your security, I'm not giving them my name, and they're not putting me in your logbook. So I don't know that he ever found out my real name or that they ever did put it in there or not. Who knows? It might pop up one of these days, but not as somebody that was messing around with the minors, because what happened was I became friendly with Ghislaine, and I used to call her G because I have trouble pronouncing her name. A lot of people do. And
Maxwell.
So,
it's called Maxwell.
Yep. So she's in prison now. I wrote a book about my experiences over there and with them. And she and I, whatever, she was drunk or whatever and fooling around and with her adult assistants and threesomes and this and that. But then there was other times when there were younger women wandering around or out by the pool, and he would ask me, do I need a massage, or do I want one of the women to come into the room with myself and Ghislaine? And I'm like, no, you got underage girls wandering around here. What the hell is wrong with you? He saw their models and their masseuses, and I'm like, I just felt he was full of shit. I felt like the house was wired.
So you said you had a threesome with Maxwell?
Oh yeah, that's in my book. It's more than once. I detail it in the book.
Yeah.
But so
And he doesn't care, because she was kind of like,
he didn't care. She was bringing him and women and young girls all the time.
so she was there pretty much as an enabler for him to get young girls. That's what he wanted. That's what his thing was.
She helped groom them because they were poor girls, a lot of them from Palm Beach, at least the ones in South Florida. There's different trailer parks and all that, and a lot of these young girls don't have money or their parents are on drugs, and evidently she would. And this is just what I learned years later. She would, find them, at their schools or the mall, and say that she has a cleaning assignment or a massage assignment or a modeling assignment for them, get them to the house, and then it always became, as the whole world knows, it became highly sexualized, and he's, was.
Did you ever go to the Virgin Islands or no?
No, never went there. Nope.
So
I didn't even know
just
it.
Palm Beach.
I didn't even know it existed. I don't recall them ever mentioning that around me.
Never.
That guy, Gene Look, one of their other recruiters, he recently turned up dead in his jail cell in France. He was in that house frequently. I ran into him a few times. Very arrogant guy who was supposedly had a modeling agency, but he was supplying like European young girls to Epstein. So
did you ever see any?
You'd have women there that couldn't speak English. You could tell they were from Eastern Europe or somewhere.
Oh wow! Did you ever see any celebrities there?
No, and I don't want to get into a lot of it here. You guys have to check out my book, because I do name names in the book of people that they became a time when he got back at me for pulling the gun on him.
Oh really?
Yeah, he tried to intimidate me and had one of his security guys come to the door when I was in the room with Glenn and one of the assistants, and stood there with a gun in his hand, not him, but the guard, the security guy. And he was trying to impress upon me about, how he owns people and he needs some favors and this and that. And so he put in on the screens, some video. It was pretty apparent that he knew people. It was kind of like a montage of different people. So I did see some prominent people, and I actually reported it. I wrote about it in the book. The last time I was in that house, I left with a few things. I got them to authorities, and nothing was ever done about it. So over the years, I've been in touch with the victims' rights attorneys that are helping the victims. But again,
were you surprised at the end he committed suicide?
Well, if you believe he committed suicide, the conspiracy is he's hanging out somewhere with Elvis and Bruce Lee,
Sure, yeah. But I guess he's a kind of coward. Was he a coward?
He's a coward who was living on top of the world, and then he went to a jail cell where the food's horrible, the bugs are everywhere, and the toilet doesn't flush. So, I mean, I think he saw the writing on the wall. See, the deal he got, the law as well as I do. The deal he got with Ken Starr and all these lawyers that did the deal, Dershowitz and all these people. Now, this is alleged.
Right.
I happen to know it's accurate, but I have to say alleged for the purpose of YouTube. These are the very same people on some of these videos that crafted his plea deal. It was a self-serving plea deal, because what it said is when he went to jail in Palm Beach County, I think in 2006, it was like soliciting a prostitute. Well, you can't solicit prostitution from an underage girl. It's rape no matter what. It's the charge doesn't even exist. So they all catered to him, put him in the minimum custody wing of the Palm Beach County Jail. And he was allowed to leave every day to go to his office. He was spotted in Miami several times while he's supposed to be in jail. He got this sweetheart deal. And part of the plea, which I think I put a copy of it in this book, but it's definitely going to be in my second editions coming out. It says that all known and unknown co-conspirators are, given immunity as part of this particular plea. So the very lawyers who helped draft the plea absolved themselves, Ghislaine Maxwell, and everybody else who helped him. But guess where these geniuses screwed up? And you may know that you and me remember the story and know what I'm talking about. That plea only covered the Southern District of Florida or the United States or whatever, but it did not incorporate the Southern District of New York. That's where they got it.
Or the Virgin Islands either.
Yeah, so that's why they were able to get him a second time. And the first thing they were screaming is, wait, I had a global plea that incorporated all federal and state charges, that all these lawyers entered into with the Attorney General's office, but it was only for the Southern District of Florida. And so
I'm fascinated to see all these names, Bill, getting released soon, and who else we're going to find out that was tied in. It's going to be fascinating. look here with Epstein.
to
I
be
think there are a lot of
judged.
people who are panicking right now.
I
Panicking.
glimpsed part of the order. The order seems to say that he's giving them, I want to say it's till the 4th, of
January.
January,
Yeah.
or the release is on the 4th. He's giving them up to then to file an appeal why their name specifically shouldn't be released.
Well, I think the victims shouldn't be released. I agree with that, but I do want to see all the associates. But I do want to see the flight log where they're trying to get that released by the FBI and to find out who was on the Lolita Express, or as they dubbed his planes, to his private island. That I want to see. And obviously, we've heard about allegedly the Clintons, right? And their RFK Jr. now has come that he was on there, but it was for family visits. He didn't go to the island.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see what. We'll see who else comes up in there. We'll see what the names.
My understanding is the only thing that went on in that island is these very affluent, billionaire connected men, heads of state from all over the world and this country, celebrities, would be isolated, and they'd be having sex with underage girls on camera and didn't realize that he was filming the whole thing.
It's to extort money from them. It was an extortion scheme. Now, Maxwell, I heard she's looking at 20 years. So she went away for a long time. So I wouldn't be surprised if she might cooperate more if more people come out. So this is an interesting story. Watch out for 2024 with Epstein here, with the other people associated with his scheme there of being a ultra sexual predator on young minors. Sick man.
And again, this is news reporting and our opinions and my personal experiences. This is not a reflection on YouTube or anything like that. But these matters have to be discussed. And if people like me who have a little bit of firsthand knowledge come forward, I say, so be it. Let them speak. Don't shut these channels down. So my book about it is called Gillen, Sensational and Impure, and it's available on Amazon. And I'll have the description in.
That sounds like a good one, Bill. Your first-hand experience, and I wrote a book also. I've written a lot of books, and the latest one there is The Bloods, Crips, and the Murder of Tupac Shakur. Obviously, that's something we were talking a little bit from the last show, and a little bit more talking about it is Dwayne Davis recently arrested for his involvement in the murder of Tupac 27 years later. And those who don't know much about it, take a look at my book there. It happened Las Vegas Strip 27 years ago. It wasn't between East Coast and West Coast. It was a Bloods Crips rivalry. Southampton Crips against the Mob Pyrus. And at the end, his nephew, allegedly, what happens at the end, it's a long story, but what happens at the end is that a feud between the Bloods and the Crips breaks out at the MGM Grand and the lobby area after the Tyson fight. Tupac gets involved in that, and later is payback, and he pays the ultimate price for it, being shot in his car by Orlando Anderson, the nephew of Dwayne Davis, who he allegedly says, and he talks himself going to prison, he provides the gun to him, and he kills him.
Well, I'll tell you what, like you told me before, he's the only survivor of the whole crew. So can you clarify?
You know the other survivor is?
You were a federal agent, so you know more about this than I do. He had evidently some side deal as, I think, an informant with the FBI, perhaps.
Yeah.
And in that deal, he agreed not to ever talk about this. Was he given some sort of immunity for the murder for all these years, and then him talking about it stripped him of that?
Yeah.
What was the nature of the deal?
He was brought in for a proffer because he was looking at serious racketeering charges in 2008. Right. So this is about over 10 years after the murder happened. He's brought in. There's a special task force. The family sues. Tupac's family has a major lawsuit because no arrests were made. So the local authorities in Los Angeles are really trying to figure out also the murder of Chris Wallace, notorious Biggie, who's killed a few months later. Same kind of fashion, but this was in downtown Los Angeles. And I put that all in my book. All that's it's fascinating. I talk about this also on the History Channel, by the way, on the show that I did. This is going to be coming out on Gangster Chronicles. The rivalry of Bloods and Crips, MS-13, a lot of things. I'm talking about this. I wrote a book about it. It's fascinating there. But he had a proffer. He admitted that he was there. He admitted he orchestrated. He admitted this is payback for his nephew taking a beat down by Tupac and his guys at the MGM Grand. And he admits we were waiting at the club that Suge Knight owns, 662, which, by the way, stands for Mob, M-O-B, for Mob Pyru, Money Over Bitches. That's what it stands for. And he didn't show they were running late. So the only reason why they drove back and saw him there in the white Cadillac, he's in the black BMW, because Tupac is outside the car waving and trying to get some girl's attention. They pick up on it. They turn around Flamingo, and that's when allegedly he passes the Glock 22, which is a 40 caliber, and he opens up in the back seat and shoots. And Suge Knight, who is the owner of or co-founder of Death Row Records, who owns the label, he took some fragments to the head, and he said later in an interview he recognized Dwayne Davis in the car. Dwayne Davis saw him in the car there because they used to play Pop Warner football together when they're growing up.
Right.
He takes 4 rounds and he dies there about a week later. Tupac. But the agreement was he comes clean. He came clean in the proffer, but what happens? They couldn't use that against him. The only time, if he testifies now in this trial and lies like he does in his book, he claims now that Tupac had a gun and they had to shoot in self-defense, not where it was retaliation and payback for humiliating his nephew and getting involved in a beatdown over an alleged medallion, death row medallion that was stolen a few months earlier in Lakewood Mall in California. So this is all come full circle now against Davis. If he would have kept his mouth quiet, not do all these shows, you go online, you go to Vlad or you go to any other ones, and you'll see what he says. He pretty much talks his way into jail, into this indictment, what happens. And not only that, he writes a book about it.
World's dumbest criminals, right?
And not only that, you know what he does? From Compton, he moves to Las Vegas near Henderson. So not only that, he pretty much shames the local authorities to arrest this guy. They do a search warrant, they find more evidence, and then in September of this year, boom. If you see the video there, go check Dwayne Davis. Kiffy D, that's his street name there. And his nephew was named Baby Lane, which is Orlando Anderson. He died a year after 98 in a gang-related shootout himself.
Right.
So these guys are all gangsters.
I saw the video of
gangsters.
that guy's arrest for killing Tupac, like in front of his house. I think in Henderson, right outside.
Yeah, Henderson, Nevada. Great book, folks. Check it out. There's a lot more detail to it. I talk more about BIG also in there, the connections out there. And by the way, Davis was also the after party when BIG was later killed. These are all connections in there. So just remember all those things out there. And very similar how he was killed. This guy pulls up in a car in a black Impala, tinted windows. He pulls out a gun in a blue suit and a blue bow tie, shoots him, and keeps on going. There's a lot to that too. I'll talk more about that.
Right. All right. Well, Ignacio, I think we got to all these topics that are just
no, it's good. It's a good show. I think, Bill, it's a good show. We have written a lot of books. We talk a lot, many talk. We talk countless for hours and hours and hours. But I think this is a good start for folks to go. They can go on Amazon, find your books. Go find Amazon on my books right there. I also have books on Audible. I know you're working on that too. ATF Undercover, my autobiography. It's also on Audible. Great for a Christmas gift. Great to listen to it. The most dangerous crime syndicates of our time, doing extremely well on Audible. And I'm getting another one on Tyrants and Killers coming out in the next few weeks. My third Audible book. All the books are doing well. And of course, check out the latest one I have, Bloods, Crips, and the Murder of Tupac Shakur. The trial will be in the summer.
Who's doing your shorter books on Audible right now, the voiceovers?
Rick Font is working on it.
Okay. I have to check that out. So what I'm going to do is we're going to sign off here, and we're going to see you next time. And I'm going to start adjusting the timer if I release shows, because there are key times when these shows really go out more. So I encourage everybody to hit that thumbs up. Please leave a comment, ask some questions, and we'll address them next time around. We're going to be starting or at least I am. Ignacio is absolutely welcome to join me. I'm going to roll here probably in the next few weeks into a Friday evening talk show format where we're going to do 4 different topics over a 4-hour period, and you can call in comments. Season 2 of Inmate to Roommates coming up here soon, from what I'm being told. No date yet, but I was told look for it after the new year. So thank you for enjoying.
Thanks, Bill.
Craziness of Inmate to Roommate.
Bill, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and yours, to your family, all while watching out there. Have a happy New Year, have happy holidays, a lot of health, and having a good, prosperous New Year. 2024 be better, and let's hope for more peace in the regions, in Gaza, peace in Ukraine, peace in our country and around the world, and a great financial year, which I think with Biden gone, what's about to happen, 2024 will be better than 2020. 2023 at the end has been phenomenal. I think 2024 is going to be better.
Absolutely. So same thing, wish you happy holidays,
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to my audience and to Ignacio and his family. And I personally just wish for peace on earth. That's a, common refrain throughout all of history of humanity, because the innocents and the vulnerable people always suffer when the thugs and the tyrants and the dictators and the monsters get to run the show. So you cannot appease tyrants and dictators. They tried that with Hitler, and that was under Chamberlain, and then when Winston Churchill stepped in, things started to change. I just like Rodney King said, can't we all get along? It's obviously the ideal, but people have egos. Mankind has a very sinful nature, and they act out on it quite a bit. So I would just leave everybody with this for the holidays from a famous movie. It's a Wonderful Life, one of my favorite movies.
Oh, it's great. Jimmy Stewart.
Yep. And actually, there was one quote from there. I can't think of it now, but the other one is from Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens. So God bless us all, everyone.
Everyone.